What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
American Express investigator followed a man he thought was one of Queensland's most wanted to a Valley restaurant. Minutes later, police had the business surrounded, then sent in a delegation.
Under arrest.
Look, I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Democracy Manifest.
And he didn't appreciate the way he was handled.
See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis!
It took 6 officers to restrain him. His major concern was the meal he'd left behind.
What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
Eventually, they had him in custody.
I believe that it's all to do with stolen credit cards.
I understand that, yeah.
Just a moment, you just assured me that I could speak.
Sit down inside the car. We're not assuring anything. We're under arrest.
Look, I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis before.
Get some cups.
Why did you do this?
Get some cups.
For what reason? What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Oh, that's a nice headlock, sir. Oh, yes. I see that you know your judo well. Good one. And you, sir, are you waiting to receive my limp penis? Now, get your hands off there.
Oh, we've only got one.
Ta-ta and farewell. One tough look. They even broke. What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
Oh my god, did that spell work? You know, like the one where you write your name in an eraser? I hear the head cheerleader's having an abortion. Slut?
It worked. Shut up, get out. You shut up, get out. He talked to me at my locker and tried to fill me up.
How Hitler?
All right, let's move on here. Girardi.
I'm him.
Campbell.
So?
Emunchuk. Sprekta Megankai. Crapper.
Such a bitch! Stop being such a freaking skank and give it back!
Don't blame me, ho. I didn't force you into this. You're the ones who said you wanted to do it. So there.
Sometimes yes means no.
And sometimes you're a bitch.
Machi machi? I mean, hello. I'm sorry to call you at this hour. Can I speak to Tomomi?
Tomomi? Ain't no Tomomi girl living here, so what?
Get your crackhead ass into some rehab. I ain't got time for this bullshit.
Motherfucker! Shinobu, you don't look so good.
Run! She's a ghost and a bitch!
Look out, Ted.
Looks like it's you and me, Raggedy Ann. Call me Barbie! Okay, fine. Looks like it's you and me, Barbie. I'm going fucking crazy.
The number you've dialed is no longer in service. Hey, maybe if they paid their fucking phone bill, you could call again.
Asian trash.
In a world where companies like 4Kids with their jelly donuts.
Hey kid, come here.
Huh?
I'm getting a little lightheaded. I think I'm running out of air. You don't let me out. You're a cat killer.
But they told me not to do that.
Pussy, I guess you always do what your big sister tells you to do.
Okay.
Later.
Hey,
Ketchup! Where's the damn cat?
but he...
What? Ketchup, what are you, retarded? Obviously. Which way did he go? Now we'll never find out who the ghost is. I hope to God you're adopted. Priest.
Leave me alone. I've got to fill out my Special Olympics application.
Special Olympics. Ha! Can't wait.
Leave him alone.
Hey, Satsuki, I'm gonna do shot put. Can you show me where to put shot, spot?
What are you saying, Ketchero?
Could you wear a wig and a dress?
I think I'm in enough trouble.
And stuff a bra and make sure you tie your pee-pee down. I don't want to be the only kid without a mom.
Ketchero! ¡No corren en el hospital, cabrones! ¿Cuándo no has visto a un niño que luce que está en el primo grado? ¡No, estúpida! ¡Adiós, gracias! ¡Dije que no corren!
I'm so high. God. Oh, but I did leave you a photo album. Look at what I was wearing. Oh, horrible. I mean, even after I married your father, I still dressed like a dyke. Hope I didn't put that pink suit picture in here. Oh, God damn it. Oh, and your father always thinks it's so cute to cross his eyes in pictures. See, look, he did it there. But for all his flaws, I really did love the guy. And the hot, sweaty, wall-slamming sex we used to have. Wow!
I'm not going to have a retarded gay brother.
Come on.
You kids don't want her, I can get a few bucks for her on eBay.
Put her down, Mr. Sakata! Don't let those blonde girls in pink dirndl fool you! She's a killer!
Oh, come on. She can't be worse than the blonde I had last night. Okay.
Hey, Hajime, where's the bathroom?
Just piss on the Toby Keith poster.
Number 2!
Oh my God in heaven, I can't believe it. It only gets worse when you get older.
There's no paper.
What? He's so slow, mentally and physically. And don't get me started on her performance.
They're both pretty pathetic. I'll agree with you there.
Think of a big black man chasing you!
Hey, I didn't know you...
Just a moment, you just assured me that I could speak.
Sit down inside the car. We're not assuring anything. We're under arrest.
Look, I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Have a look at the headlock here. See that chap over there? Get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis before.
Get some cups.
Why did you do this? For what reason? What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Oh, that's a nice headlock, sir. Oh, yes. I see that you know your judo well. Good one. And you, sir, are you waiting to receive my limp penis? Now, get your hands off me.
No, we've only got one cup.
Ta-ta! And farewell. One cup, look. They even broke.
Oh, well, it's really quite funny. I was in bed sleeping at 2 o'clock this morning. My wife comes in and says, oh, the shop's been, someone ran into the shop. And I said, oh, what? So I jumped out of bed and all I had was my undies on and I walked out the front and I've seen the car smashed and I've seen the bloke walking back to the car. And so I've walked outside and I said, oh, what are you doing, mate? Like, you can't be leaving the scene. And he goes, don't be a hero, mate. And I said, I'm not trying to be a hero, but the police are coming. And he just decided he'd scoot up the road. And I just said, nah, it's not going on like that, mate. So I jumped in my car and I started chasing him up the road. And then he went down a side street and then the police were coming. And I flashed them and sent them off in the direction of him. But, mate, all I had was me jocks on. I was chasing him up the street and I'm just like, mate, like...
Because you told me that this is your mate's shop and you didn't want him to get away.
Yeah, no, well, me mate's mum's had this shop for like 40 odd years and look at it. Look at it. What?
It's a mess, isn't it?
Beyond a mess. Like, words can't explain how it is, mate. Like.
Now, Daniel, you managed to put some pants on in the meantime.
Yeah, mate.
It's good to hear. Do you feel like a hero?
Not really. It's just something you got to do for the community, mate. It's like you look after your mates and your mates will always look after you.
There you go. Good attitude. There you go, guys. Daniel, quite the Australian hero here this morning. As for the owners of the fish and chip shop, well, they are insured, but there is a big mess to clean up this morning.
Oh, wouldn't you like to live next door to Daniel?
Woo-hoo! The day. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Jess, what Daniel needs to realise, Daniel, if you can hear me, you know all good superheroes wear their jocks on the outside, so it kind of fits the brief, pardon the pun.
Yeah, but I had nothing on but me jocks.
Yeah, Lisa.
Well, you missed that bit of the uniform, but that's okay. You're a hero in our eyes. Wow. Well done, Daniel.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks a lot, guys.
Goes to show what you can achieve in your underwear.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jessica Millwood. Check in with you again shortly.
Eyes again, doesn't he?
pay homage or case bomb at ungrateful niggas I don't like.
Bankai. Kannon Village. Benishime Aratame.
Hey people, Seth here. Fellas, I gotta confess, I'm down bad. I got caught peeing in the sink. Now, I don't think that's weird. It's a victimless crime, just like punching someone in the dark. If the sink is so forbidden to urination, then why is it placed so perfectly, reducing my hesitation? But, I feel embarrassed. No, not because I did it, but because I got caught. I'm not gonna stop. I'll just get better. For the future, I'm gonna trick shot my stream around the sink bowl. That's a silent projectile. Effectively, I'm applying a suppressor to my gun barrel. That way, members of my family cannot ambush me so easily, and I will not be shamed by people who immediately revert to authoritarian fascist statements such as, "We have 2 toilets. Why did you use the sink?" Listen, I saved water. I saved lives. Maybe a few decades from now, there'd be entire villages in sub-Saharan Africa singing songs of praise over how much water I saved. And you know what? All I had to do was unload my fire hose in a kitchen sink. Company of Heroes 2, strangely enough, is the topic of this video. It is an old game played by old men, namely us. Company of Heroes 2 is a squad-based RTS covering the events of World War II, a fictional war where Germany hired Hugo Boss to design their fashionable blitz of Europe, Russia managed to kill 24 million of their own people, and the US greatly increased the temperature of 2 neighborhoods in Southeast Asia. All this happened while the UK sat in a corner, still wondering why marching all your men single file into machine gun fire during World War I may impact their ability to participate in the sequel. Basically, a sequence of events so absurd that we depart from the realm of fiction into history. Everything seen here is not only real, it's historically accurate. Yes, the blast radius of a single grenade, approximately the same size as everything you love and cherish. Yes, the trajectory of a mortar shell, statistically, by a random chance, will always land perfectly on a soldier's head, killing at least 3 more. Yes, a machine gun will pin every squad on the map. That is, unless you own the machine gun, in which case it pins one enemy, gets flanked, and eats a Molotov to the face. Tanks counter infantry. Anti-tanks, or AT, counter tanks. But, pray tell, what counters an anti-tank? Answer, the same tank driving towards you. Combat is a mystery. Sometimes, the enemy calls it air support, pitting our infantry. So, logically, I shoot them down. The burning plane crashes into my friend's base, taking out the rest of his infantry. Here is the largest tank in the game, the King Tiger. Notice, standard for vehicles of its time, the traditional German Ahegao paint job. One of the greatest features of this game is custom content, because when I pick a shitty anime faceplate, you get no choice in the matter. You are forced to download the same shitty anime faceplate, which, when inspected closely, reveals instructions on how to make meth. I believe Central Intelligence can employ this in the future. We join someone's game, forcibly download illegal content to their PC, and do a sting operation on their residence. If they start screaming civil liberties or probable cause, cite Penal Code 129 paragraph 27 subsection C, which states, anyone caught playing Hearts of Iron 4, Europa Universalis, or Company of Heroes 2 is probably a domestic terrorist. I also really enjoy setting my victory strike to FPS killer. I almost feel like it's an obligation. You see, one of my friends doesn't exactly have the best computer. This encourages him to play his very best, because if he loses, he's not just gonna lose the game. His PC will overheat and die, killing him in the explosion. But I'm getting off track. Gameplay. You produce units to capture and hold territory. The more territory you hold, the higher your income to spend on units and upgrades. Your objective is to either take and hold certain key positions or destroy the enemy HQ. Very simple. Infantry come in squads of 4 to 6. Each of these individuals can fight and die on the battlefield, but as long as the squad stays alive, you can replace your dead soldiers. This is infinitely cheaper than ordering a fresh new squad. This is a micro intensive RTS where positioning matters. There's a cover system. 4 dudes hiding behind a cow isn't great, but it's better than getting capped in the middle of the street. Sandbags, broken vehicles, or even a domestic dwelling offer the best protection. However, terrain is dynamic. A tank shell can transform brick walls into brick memories. A howitzer pancakes buildings into rubble and any men inside into red stains. And artillery fire causes deformation of the soil, leaving craters that provide cover in the process. Basically, in 1941, we already knew how to terraform. We can take anything we see and make it worse. There's also ice. I don't really talk about it because having ice implies that you're playing a winter map, which nobody does because they suck. Ice breaks on impact. It's a great form of population control and a good way to lose your tank. Vehicles are a little different. In general, the distance, angle, size, wind resistance, conductivity, and horoscope of the ammunition against the horoscope of the armor determines damage. Most 88mm shells are made in June, making them a Cancer, while most of the bulk production of German armor was late September, making it a Libra. Cancer typically defeats Libra unless Mercury is in retrograde, in which case all bets are off. A tank's armor is strongest at the front, which means the back and side is ripe for the taking. Fighting a tank directly is a terrible idea. Your shots won't do much if they even connect. You'll know true terror when you see every anti-tank gun shoot the same target, only to hear a characteristic ting, which means their front plate is so thick that every shell just bounced off. On the bright side, the heavier the tank, the slower it moves. So we flank, outmaneuver, and ambush them instead. And if that doesn't work, there's always the Soviet approach, where I take a T-34 and ram it into your tank. Yes, Germans had the best tanks, but the Soviets designed their gas pedal in reverse. Once you start the ignition, you press the pedal to stop the tank. If, hypothetically, your head has been blown off by shrapnel, your foot will release the pedal. The engine will accelerate and take out one of the best tanks in the world. And then you make another. Disclaimer, I don't know if this is true. My sources are some schizophrenic guy whose bathroom was red with chicken blood. And before you say, Seth, I don't think he sounds reliable, I'll have you know, he's a practicing doctor. Let's talk about the races. There's 5 in total. First, let's talk about the bad guys. The British. I'm kidding. The Orcs are a defensive faction. They can lock down large areas of a map with emplacements, and their tanks feature some of the best armor in the game. Oh, whoa, I never saw the decals close up. Yo, by the way, this is a normal British tank. This is a real Cromwell. Bro, this is real. Everybody gangster until the Churchill starts vaping. They do temporarily suffer from a lack of manpower. That is, until you reach late game, where Saruman begins to command the very mud to rise up and reinforce your squads with Urukai. Goblins are going to give out gigantic loans with even higher interest to all of their allies. By the end of the war, I expect their banks to hold most of the gold on the planet. But in this game, they actually fight. They can spam their basic unit and never lose a single engagement because, unlike everybody else, they don't retreat. They just park an ambulance outside and spawn camp your base. If you even dare to counter them, they'll spam rangers instead. Homo Sovieticus. This game's release was met with heavy criticism from Russia, stating that portraying the Eastern Front as a slaughterhouse where civilians were conscripted to fight with a single lever-action rifle between 5 or 6 people was inaccurate, because by the time you get to use it, realistically, you're a group of 3. In this game, the Russian army works much the same way. Everything and everyone is mass-produced and expendable. Our tanks are built like shit. Our men leave their homes with teary eyes, domestically abusing their wife one last time because they know full well they might not come back. The High Elves feature the 2 best vehicles in the game. The Kubelwagen, which has the highest RPM in the entire game. It also dies from a mild gust of wind, which makes keeping it alive all the more interesting. And this is a Sturmtiger. The gun is so huge that it must be reloaded externally by the crew for 30 seconds. And this is what it sounds like when it fires. Oberkommando West are highly mobile and aggressive. Their playstyle is keep pushing the front line until you win, and occasionally send a Kubelwagen into their back line. And finally, we have the Germans. I don't like playing the Deutsch. Everything is incredibly bureaucratic, just like Germany. Oh nein, Entschuldigung, we have not escalated the battle phase. Please continue losing a little longer before we can authorize the countermeasure for what you're currently losing to. Wehrmacht has some of the greatest variety in units and tactics, but I am very bad at playing them. I'm highly emotional and unstable, so yes, this will affect my opinion. There's many ways to play this game. Against AI, against players, 1v1, 2v2, anything is possible. But let me tell you the worst way to play this game. 4v4 versus expert AI.
Heck, fucking 4 experts? Hell yeah, I'm ready to get butt pounded.
What do you mean butt pounded? This is joy. Do you not feel mirth?
Which is what we've been doing for the past few weeks. It's a bonding exercise, a form of collective suffering that brings us closer together. Allow me to summarize that experience.
Fucking miserable after that game, damn.
Playing against expert AI is like your Goku in a hyperbolic time chamber. You get so mad so fast. You're training years in just days. You're learning forms of anger that take decades to develop. My life is currently one of those Fortnite shirts you see around town, except instead it says eat, sleep, scream, repeat. I fucking hate this game. I lied. It's not fun. You go in with hope. You come out a broken, hollow husk of your former self. But why? Because expert gets everything you get, except double. Plus, perfect reflexes, map hack, and the ability to bend reality. You're going to be eating your first tank shell before 5 minutes into the game. You're going to make progress, only to see 3 red flares drop on top of you, undoing all of your progress. You're going to look away for a split second and see your whole squad disappear. You're going to play the game perfectly and still lose. In summary, Company of Heroes 2. I hate it. It's great. But before I continue, consider the following. That purchasing a legitimate copy of the base game allows you to play only 2 of the 5 possible factions. That's right. You only get to play Wehrmacht and the Soviets. The rest is DLC. Surely that's not too bad, right? I mean, it's the least they can ask of us to buy the base game for $20 and then buy the other 3 races for $40. But wait, it gets better. Most of the game features are locked behind faction commanders, which can be purchased with money. For reference, an entire faction is the same cost as 4 commanders. However, and people are very quick to point this out, you could also earn them with in-game currency using the greatest loot box ever made. I've played over 100 hours. Do you know the number of times I dropped currency free? Do you know how many more I need to earn a commander? 27. I love simping for corporations. I love cash shops. I love that yummy high fructose corn syrup. I love the United Nations. With this in mind, I strongly encourage anyone interested to visit a third-party reseller instead. The copy you're looking for is the Master Collection. This should include all the races, but instead of $60, you spend $15. Yes, I know, everyone and their mother is scared of CD key resellers. I bought about 100 keys online. Every single one worked. Then I once bought a boxed copy of Fallout Tactics from the store, which just had an empty case with a code inside. That code didn't work. So, from my experience, putting my trust in a random Polish stranger gives me better results. As always, more content to come, so stay tuned. This video is a test to see how quickly I could churn something out. Turns out for creative output, in the absence of passion, vitriol is... Hey people, Seth here. Are you easily entertained by seeing numbers get higher? Would you like to play the equivalent of that, except all the buttons have been replaced with Chinese symbols? Do you have a burning interest in Chinese martial arts, Taoism, or the pursuit of immortality? Then I invite you to see where my life has spiraled out of control for the past 2 months. Amazing Cultivation Simulator. Keep in mind, I only paid money for this after 50 hours. I've been playing this for so long that all my ads are in Chinese. Amazing Cultivation Simulator is a love letter to Chinese wushu novels, essentially Chinese sword fantasy. The word is like a sound because it's meant to sound like a sword swipe. In the novels, cultivation is the cultivation of one's internal qi through practice, martial arts, meditation, whatever. And qi is the vital breath or essence of our living world, according to the same people who stick needles in your back. The end goal of cultivation is, of course, immortality, and that is what this whole game is about. Essentially, you're going to take a small small group of Chinese rice farmers and turn them into demigods. To begin, I need to dispel any notion at all that this is Chinese RimWorld. I do this by comparing them directly. For example, we need a refrigerator. I'm going to build one. We need a refrigerator. I'm going to drop the frozen soul of a demon and reduce the temperature to absolute zero. The room is too cold. We need air conditioning. The room is too cold. Rebuild it out of wood and make the bed out of fire. Now, our disciple won't die of frostbite. He'll die of heat stroke. My colonist is crippled, disabled, and completely geriatric, so the cheapest option is to put him down. My disciple is an old, disabled nugget. We have regrown each of his limbs. Also, he's now a 14-year-old boy. We're under attack by bandits. We should get inside to safety. A man just decapitated my best friend from over 10 kilometers away with a flying fedora. Once you get past the obvious comparisons, you'll never mistake this game for anything else. To begin, you'll need to go through the tutorial. It's very quick and gives you a bit of background to the story. Unfortunately, the English voice acting is questionable. Luckily, this is a fantasy game, so the sound of women is optional. In contrast, the music is lovely and the visuals are gorgeous. Completing the tutorial unlocks the actual game, which is clearly and unambiguously labeled Classic, which, upon clicking, will show a huge list of sliders and settings to scare away the casual guilo. Don't touch anything, just hit confirm. Next, you're gonna get trolled by the Chinese, because the developers think it's really funny that there's an almost certain guarantee that you just rolled a Yao Guai as one of your starting characters. Let me explain, white boy. In this world, you can cultivate as either a human or a Yao Guai, which translates to monster, but really we're referring to demons. Yao Guai, henceforth referred to as yogurts, are animals that have gained sentience and become humanoid. However, their existence is unnatural, and eventually they have to face tribulation from the heavens. It's sort of like God's punishment for being a furry. I wish I knew that before I lost my first waifu to a storm cloud, but because the random character selection randomizes race and 11 out of 12 of those races are different flavors of yogurt, you're very likely to land that. Until you know what you're doing, I don't recommend starting with dairy products, but if you want to speedrun the game, I recommend starting as the fastest animal on land. A turtle. You'll starve to death before you even reach the dinner table. Beyond this point, there's not much advice I can give. You're gonna suffer and you're gonna learn from the experience. So pick your starting perks and get into the game. Everybody recommends True Sun Refining as your starting law because it's got very simple progression. And if you make a mistake, worst case scenario, you'll just die in horrific agony. If you follow the plot, the entirety of a Tai sect has been annihilated. You and a handful of others are the only survivors. Why was it destroyed, and by who? Whomst did this? Are questions you'll have to answer if you want to uncover the mystery of a Tai sect. But right now, your primary concern is survival. To help, a mysterious cultivator who was tight with your former sect leader drops by for the next 2 weeks. As long as he's alive, you're not gonna die. That is, unless you go to the bottom left of a map, in which case, you will both die. Let's get definitions going. You're running a sect, a school of cultivation. A sect has outer disciples that will happily do all of your mundane, tedious labor for a competitive salary of about $0. They're not slaves, as per se. We don't use that word here. It's more like an internship, which never ends. But through a high-intensity jujitsu program known as Foundation, they can become inner disciples. An inner disciple must choose one of the many supreme laws to follow, through which they cultivate a higher state of being. Their progress, abilities, and potential is largely determined by their character stats and background. Like RimWorld, everyone in this game generates with a random background, such as congenital defect, seashell collector, and effeminate male. The combination of stats will determine their compatibility with a chosen law. You start with just one, but you'll unlock the rest as the game goes on. Also, they don't have to eat, but they still do. It's not uncommon to see a cultivator feasting on ramen, even if there's currently a famine, especially if we're currently having a famine. Also, pro tip, you start with a single forming pill. This can instantly finish your foundation and give you an inner disciple right at the start. After promotion, you can go to the sect tab and hit establish a sect, and most importantly, give it a cool name. Once that happens, you have officially incorporated. The rest of the game opens up. Inner disciples don't work. They cultivate and get get stronger. After all, this is Taoist Dragon Ball Z, but after incorporation, you can send them out to explore the world. There's two options, camp and adventure. Adventure sends them out on adventures. They leave and they come back. Camp sends them out to stay, and if you're so inclined, you can physically enter the map and plunder a village. At the start, your map's gonna look like this. Immediately, you're gonna notice something. One, there's barely any locations because you haven't discovered them, and two, if you try to explore the red zones, you're gonna come home in a body bag, because that's not your territory. So whose is it? A great way to find out is to visit them directly and prank them by sneaking inside their school. Once they catch you, they'll give you a proper introduction, break your knees, snap your spine, and gouge your eyes out. The other sects aren't very sociable, but diplomacy is important, because if they felt so inclined, they could obliterate us. To even get an audience with them, you have to make an offering. Your offering doesn't matter. Each time they're gonna call you a broke-ass bitch anyway. That's why we wait for a cow to defecate, mark it as the trade area, and send our gift. Now you can trade. In a world of immortality, money is an abstract concept, so we're working on a purely barter-based economy. However, we still have a form of currency, and yes, it's completely edible. Spirit stones are the chocolate coins of this world. You can trade them during break time for Pokemon cards, or consume them directly to restore a small amount of diabetes. In this case, they restore a small amount of chi, so they function as both a store of wealth and a means of exchange. Each sect offers something different for ridiculous amounts of money, and even if you have the stacks to pay for it, we're not selling. That would be like selling weapons to your enemy, and how do we know we can trust you? So you have to butter them up. This is mainly done by asking people across the world whether the leader of a sect prefers cats or dogs, and gifting him the appropriate kind of meat. Let's return to matters back at home. Feng Shui is a Chinese system of thought governing spatial arrangement and orientation in relation to the flow of qi. Have a look. Here's some simple Chinese alchemy that I expect you to memorize by about 200 hours of play. Why do I have to learn this? Because everything in this game is subject to Feng Shui. Everything has an element and they interact with one another. Water nourishes wood. Wood feeds fire. Fire cools to make the earth. Earth produces metal, and metal holds the water, allowing it to repeat the cycle. Okay, that's cool, Seth, but we don't have time for this. Wait, did my guy just die of heart palpitations? Why is the yin-yang symbol on this bedroom red? What the fuck does ominous mean? When in doubt, check the pentagram. Room of wood, bed of earth. Wood defeats earth, making the feng shui of a bedroom ominous. And if you sleep in that bedroom, you'll die of a heart attack. Replace the earth bed with a fire bed, and as wood feeds fire, the feng shui will become auspicious, which means good. However, if you sleep in that bedroom, you'll die of heat stroke. That's because fire and water control the temperature. In a more relevant scenario, each of the supreme laws practiced by your cultivators has an element. Feng shui affects the speed and success of their practice. So if you're a metal cultivator, you would avoid fire, as fire melts metal. However, if you told him to meditate in an empty room and fed him laxatives, the speed of his cultivation would increase with the volume of shit he produces, as feces is the element of earth which promotes metal. If you're confused, I sympathize. There is no way you could possibly know that in Feng Shui, the orientation of a room's door is specific to its function. In other words, bedrooms face south, workshops east, and kitchens west. That's why everything in this game has a comment box, so you and your fellow Guilos can share ideas about what the hell is going on. Now, the main focus of this game is cultivation towards immortality, which can be summarized by the following post. You eat a pill, sit on your ass for several years, and once you're done, you go from rank 8 ping pong to rank 2 ching chong, which is still like 100 ranks below the heavenly golden dragon god emperor star ancestor. But it's okay, since there are still about 3,000 chapters to go, and all the big dick characters that could kill you with those can share ideas about what the hell is going on. Now, the main focus of this game is cultivation towards immortality, which can be summarized by the following post. You eat a pill, sit on your ass for several years, and once you're done, you go from rank 8 ping pong to rank 2 ching chong, which is still like 100 ranks below the heavenly golden dragon god emperor star ancestor. But it's okay, since there are still about 3,000 chapters to go, and all the big dick characters that could kill you with a fart are currently busy. So you can go and wipe out a ding dong clan, which obsessively wants you dead because you courted death by destroying the King Kong clan after its young master picked a fight with you over your jade-like beauty childhood friend. Essentially, you're going to perform a bunch of opaque, esoteric, and poorly understood processes to help you reach a higher power level. There's 3 types of cultivation in this game, and I'm going to mispronounce all of them. Xiandao, Shandao, and Physical. Xiandao is most relevant because it makes up 90% of the game. Your process of cultivation is derived from Chinese internal alchemy, where instead of a cauldron, you use your body, and instead of reagents, you use your chi to form a golden core. Think of a philosopher's stone, except backwards. That's what a golden core is. Instead of drinking the elixir of life, we are the elixir of life. Xiandao is unique since you can transcribe your knowledge to a manual. This means a single cultivator can study from every other law and become exponentially more powerful. This can lead to interesting situations where someone might learn skills they really weren't supposed to, such as a male cultivator learning lunar form from the sunflower refining law and by doing so reversing his sex. Becoming female in this game results in the loss of your penis, which can be picked up and sold on the open market. You can even make money off this by regrowing your penis, which will, upon realizing that you're not meant to have one, detach immediately. Each time you harvest a crop of penis, you become the dick farmer. But I digress. To reach a higher power level, you have to perform a breakthrough. This is essentially a bottleneck in your training, which you have to overcome or you can't progress. Golden Core, however, is different. It is the single most important breakthrough of your career. Every condition has to be perfect. The season, the weather, the time of day, the mental state of a cultivator, the element of a room, the chi density, and the amount of chi flowing through the cultivator's meridians. Get all those right, and you just might get a better result than I did. I genuinely thought I did pretty good for my first time. Tier 9, I thought to myself, that's a pretty high number. Tier 9 is the lowest tier of Golden Core. It is trash. Literally, swallow a rebirth pill and reincarnate yourself, my man. You fucked up. Early on, your Golden Cores are gonna suck, but with experience comes knowledge, and once you learn how, you'll be making some fat cores on a regular. Then there's Shandao cultivation. Instead of cultivating your chi, you take in the chi of others through worship. Belief is power, and the more people believe in you, the more powerful you become. Once you establish yourself as a divine being with a realm of heaven, you can be the petty god you've always wanted. As a rule, I only answer bad prayers. Drought, bandits, famine, refuse. Don't waste my time. You wish that tomorrow your favorite brothel prostitute hasn't been taken? Granted. You want your boss to step in dog shit? Granted. You want the guy who stole from you to be struck by lightning? My pleasure. You want those annoying neighbors next door to die in horrific agony? Me too. You want someone to celebrate your birthday with you this year? Granted. At some point, I learned to stop worrying and love Shandao. Also, they get the most ridiculous titles. Just imagine that every prayer addressed to you has to be prefaced with, Dear Primordial, True Venerated, Great Pardon, Supreme Virtue, Venerated Holy Emperor. That leaves us with physical cultivation. What is physical cultivation? It's an inner disciple that spent the last 50 days remolding his phallus. Due to the mental state bonus of having a gigantic penis, he is now physically immune to depression. In all seriousness, you take a mortal and you turn him into a Super Saiyan. Every body part, limb, joint, bone, and organ of your body you can remold until you become Goku. And then you give him intense PTSD so he can channel those repressed memories to increase his attack power from 1 million to 7 million and one-shot the entire game. Also, since every yogurt comes from a different animal, they all have unique anatomy that's different to humans, which means for every species of demon you turn to physical cultivation, there's tissue, bones, and organs not found anywhere else. In other words, fuck your opposable thumbs. I got vertebrae fused to my carapace. Sooner or later, your sect is gonna be attacked by bandits, demons, or other cultivators. With the exception of physical cultivators, which remove organs with their bare hands, Xiandao and Shandao cultivators fight using artifacts. What is an artifact? Well, anything. A Kleenex tissue, a bowl of ramen, a bag of flour, a bucket of water, a pile of shit, severed male genitalia. As long as you enchant it, you can use it. Preferably, try to enchant an actual weapon. Although, you can't deny it's very demoralizing to see your fellow bandit get decapitated by blue fabric summer shirt. Combat is basically your guys sit around and watch as their artifacts cut everyone to pieces. It's pretty fun to watch, especially larger battles, where the sky is nothing but swords. Of course, no cultivation is complete without embracing traditional Chinese medicine. That's right, alchemy. Here's a good summary of what alchemy is like. Change the weather. Lose 20 years of your natural lifespan, which may sound bad, until you visit the local Chinese pharmacy and pop a pill which adds 500, another which adds 280, and wash it all down with some mineral water which adds another 99. Now the only thing you have to cure is perpetual baby face, which is a common symptom when you have a lifespan of 3,000. You want something done? Yeah, there's a pill for that. Obesity? No problem. Not obese enough? I gotcha. Would you like to prank a demon? Force feed him a rebirth pill and he'll reincarnate right back into a piece of pork on your dinner plate. The cycle of karma is a fickle mistress. Honestly, if alchemy made any more sense, I'd actually be upset. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna put myself in a coma for 3 days. About 30 days in, you're gonna get a pet. A divine pet. This is different to normal pets, which you adopt into your sect by shooting them with hunting bows, which are somehow blunt and tipped with anesthetic. This may sound very stupid, but on the other hand, Gundo Musashi had bullets that put you to sleep, and that was a masterpiece. Anyway, he starts off as a baby and grows larger with time. He's also a little shit, and you're gonna have to keep an eye on him before he destroys your sect. For example, my friend saw one of his cultivators doing a breakthrough, and he thought to himself, fuck, my man is literally shitting himself. This is one intense breakthrough. Turned out his dog was feeding laxatives to all of his inner disciples. It is your responsibility to teach them right from wrong. Peasants slacking on the job? Yes. Attack outer disciples. Give them some cardio. Drug inner disciples with euphoria pills? Why not? Give them some opium. An injured stranger wants our help? Yes. Attack unknown mortals. Kill them. Whether you raise him to be a functional member of society or a four-legged sociopath is entirely up to you. You can even rename him to something a little more Chinese. If you include the Bamboo Forest DLC, which adds a pair of pandas, there's 5 pets in total. They're incredibly cute and generally amazing. At the beginning, your sect can only hold 12 members. This increases to 24, then 36 as your reputation increases. Reputation also increases the power level of invading enemies. Don't let this number get out of control or you'll experience firsthand what it's like to lose a 50-hour game in 5 seconds, which is a good time to inform you that in this game, you can draw Chinese talismans with your mouse, the accuracy of which determines the blessing. You can even draw on a blank sheet of paper, and it's still gonna work. I know this because somebody drew a swastika, and apparently they can now use the oven 12% faster. So please draw a bunch of invisibility scrolls and wear them when you go on adventures. Your sect will thank you each time they haven't been murdered in your absence. It's not easy to make stacks in this game, which is why we have to trick villagers into filling our ranks. We do this by making small talk, finding out that half of them love nothing more than to ravenously consume shit, and invite them over. Because we're gonna need a lot of manpower for our Chinese sweatshop. As inner disciples cultivate immortality, outer disciples cultivate huge plantations of cotton. We're gonna process that down to fabric, and we're gonna wait, because very soon a merchant is gonna show up. He operates on a sweatshop economy. He's gonna pay you garbage, so you better have a high volume of garbage to sell. Luckily, our emaciated peasants have worked hard this summer, and we just earned 10,000 spirit stones. We're gonna celebrate by losing it instantaneously, because the merchant also sells an invitation to an exclusive event. Read the token, and we're off to the auction house. Have you ever gone to an auction where you can't even see what's being sold, but instead are given a vague description? Hard. Lumpy. A man's hand shoots up. I'll take it for 10,000. Not to be outdone, I raise his offer. I'll take it for 12,000. Another joins in. 13. Another raises. 14. The rest fold because they're poor as fuck. Those who remain keep raising. Eventually, there's only 2 of us. One final raise. 56,000. I won the bid, but I don't have 56,000. But they don't know that. The auction ends. It's time to pay. I can't pay. I am under arrest, but I'm not, because I am a mannequin made of straw. I never went to the auction. I took a clone pill and sent my body double. And that is a good summary of the auction house experience. It's not about what we bid on. It's about why we do it. We do it to flex on the poor. While keeping a low profile is important, you should expand when given the chance. You see, your sect is local, but we can export the culture, the lifestyle, and the religion to the rest of fantasy China. To do this, we establish agencies. Then we set a policy for each region and grow our influence. Depending on the policy, you get random events, which have to be solved using insanity. You get a bunch of buttons, which I assume is what a paranoid schizophrenic's dialogue options look like, and you press whichever one you think is appropriate to the situation. Options include talk, bribe, kill, seduce, or throw a rock at someone and stone them to death. Foreigner scamming the locals? Murder him. Another sect is preaching about their faith? Pay them 100 spirit stones to fuck off. Is it currently Ramadan in the Great Desert? Start handing out food. Believe me, the longer you do it, the more sense it makes, or the more warped and psychopathic your reasoning becomes. For example, you're building a wonder and some people drop by to ask what you're doing. Wrong answer, debate feng shui. Correct answer, beat them with a club. If you solve stuff correctly, you get a bunch more followers. Followers can dig up natural resources, generate belief that converts into experience, completely skipping the grind of cultivation, and be sacrificed for the greater good. You see, we're gonna need a lot of anguish soul gems, which are formed from a painful death in ominous feng shui. Luckily, with agencies, there's no shortage of fresh and willing mortals. With reputation, you can build a sect gate. This is the front door, where hopeful mortals arrive to prostrate themselves, begging to be recruited. But instead, we're going to build a hell gate, which is the same gate, but in a room with ominous feng shui at a comfortably cool temperature of absolute zero. We're gonna recruit mortals from every city. They will arrive, pray to Hellgate, and freeze to death in horrific agony. And the negative moral consequence of such an action? Zero, because they have died through no fault of our own. This is a good time to introduce alignment. Your sect can be good or evil, but preferably we want a balance, so we have good relations with both the virtuous and the demonic. This game exemplifies the Chinese practice of moral relativity.
What are they doing there? What are they, protesters?
If I horrifically mutilate someone's dying body to extract the location of their friends and family, that's slightly evil. But as long as you give them a proper burial, that's a net neutral action, and we have done nothing wrong. Or let's say a curious stranger comes by to ask what you're doing, and then stands there waiting for an answer. Hey people, Seth here. Hey Ren, Shisu Saicholi. As China's geopolitical relevance and power grows, we must all humbly admit the impending inevitability that it's only a matter of time before we're all speaking Mandarin. So, you better get started. And what better way than by appreciating Chinese culture before our new masters from Beijing begin their iron-fisted rule. Today, we're going to learn how to appreciate Chinese culture by playing a historical Chinese city-building game. Neighborhood too ugly? Just wall it off. Mongolians at your gates? Just wall them off. China loves walls. Ancestors unhappy? Break some pottery. That should make them happy. Develop gunpowder. Improve your technology. Then pick the nuke general and upgrade your nuke cannons to use neutron shells. These will eliminate the Mongolians, but leave your feng shui intact. Unemployment too high? Garnish their wages. New village doesn't want to trade? Send spies to sabotage their economy and shit in their rice bowls. Then export white rice to them at a premium. Establish bureaucracy. Fail to collect any form of tax revenue because you have nothing to write on. Send loggers to cut bamboo. Get mauled to death by pandas. Send in the police to distract them. Get mauled by tigers instead. Establish a nobility. Spend most of your GDP on providing rice noodles to the nobility. Lose half of your workforce because they forgot to drink water. Lose your dynasty. Lose your head. Rinse and repeat. Welcome to Emperor, Rise of the Middle Kingdom. As one of Impression's game's final city-building projects, Emperor is probably the most streamlined and straightforward of the bunch. Everything works clearly and efficiently, and you're no longer constrained by older mechanics in the series, such as living standards, ethics, and human rights. Here in ancient to middle-aged China, the only thing that matters is raw productivity, and ensuring that your population has more variety in their food than just millet and silkworms. China is a hardcore place, and it has a very hardcore history, which you can experience across a series of increasingly difficult campaigns. Manage your peasants, cultivate feng shui, and export cheap electronics to the rest of the world, and you'll see your city flourish. Mismanage everything, and you'll see your city fall apart. As Confucius once said, if an Nvidia factory is currently not on fire, it will be on fire. Observe his wisdom and build appropriate health and safety measures, or else. Emperor is a game of balance, but mainly balancing your finances. If you fail to establish adequate civilization and turn a profit within the first 2 years of game time, consider your government position terminated. In many ways, ancient China had the right idea about administration. They do a good job, they get to keep their job. They do a bad job, they lose their head. Emperor is also a game of planning. You need to plan out your city's layout to satisfy everyone's needs. The nobles want to be far away from the commoners. The commoners want to be far away from all the workshops, factories, and rice fields. The rice farmers are content no matter what, even if half of their children keep getting systematically eaten by tigers. This is an unfortunate loss, but rice picking is no profession for slow children. You might ask, what is the purpose of these obese, lecherous bottom feeders we call nobles? I'll tell you, military. China is not a peaceful place, and there's many people who don't understand the fine art of diplomacy, and the only real way of communicating to these people that there's a better alternative to violence is through ultra-violence. Crush them, subvert them, invade them, and then demand everything they have. When they give you everything they have, demand everything they don't. When they can't meet this reasonable request, extinguish them, then erase them out of every map, book, or scrap of literature. And that is how you peacefully resolve conflict in Emperor. Once your enemies cease to exist, you can actually go and enjoy your city, which is beautiful, by the way. I'm running this stretched on a typical 1080p monitor, and all the graphics and sprite work still hold up as